This is Nifty Culture. I'm Pio, and this evening I have the pleasure of speaking with YouTube content creator, NFT entrepreneur, and Twitter Spaces host extraordinaire, Hunter Orrell. How's it going, Hunter?
It's going well. Busy day in NFT world as usual, nonstop. More excitement than I thought I was going to wake up to or check in on this morning when I got on Twitter. So just another great day. Can't complain.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, you and I have crossed paths, on Twitter. You host these really great spaces. Anybody watching right now should definitely follow Hunter on Twitter. That name under his picture, that's his Twitter handle. He hosts these spaces that, sometimes they're short, but other times they're like, what I call like a marathon space where he's the host. He keeps the whole thing going for like 6 hours, but, you invite just anybody that's kind of like a contributor in NFTs to kind of join. And it's a revolving door of the who's who of contributors. You see people pop on, people pop off, people get to know each other, people make connections. So yeah. I think it's a really cool thing. And you're the only person that I see doing it like that, like having those long form spaces for people.
Yeah, no, Deez is definitely the other person who is like the Batman, and I guess I'm like the Robin to him. He's definitely a bigger account. There are some others that I was made aware of when I made my tweet today. So like there's more and more people popping into the long form spaces. But the amount of friendships that have just come out of meeting people, hosting those, has been crazy. We've had some insane moments in the spaces. Like there's one like a week ago where there's like a 12-year-old Indian girl who came on and spoke publicly for the first time, and showed her owls, and I bought one, and Tropo bought one, and then everybody in the space started buying it, and it apparently has changed that family's life dramatically. So we've had some really cool moments that I'm really just. It's been awesome. I'm glad I've jumped into like the content and the NFT space, and to see like the impact that's been had throughout all the people I've touched and met.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's so cool that, that's the power of the internet. And then now the power of NFT technology, where someone that's, a child in India suddenly has a platform where she's able to kind of step up. People rally behind that. They buy her work. It's life-changing for her. And those people get to, have that connection and get involved. So, kudos to you on that. That's incredible. You also have a YouTube channel that I'll make sure that I add to the description of this video that people can check out. You do a segment called Morning Mint, where that's like a daily sort of like recap and news program. What other kind of segments do you do on your show?
So we also do Steak and Wine, STAKE, kind of play on
nice.
Staking. That's every Wednesday, where I send out a bottle of wine to a random person. Well, not random, but like I'll choose somebody and be like, hey, I'm sending you a bottle of wine, or I need you to go to the liquor store and pick up like this specific bottle. We'll both pop the cork, and then we'll just talk NFTs, life, art for like an hour. And it's kind of like that nice midweek break recap, and then like, hey, where is this week gonna kind of end up, we think. And then every Friday I do an episode called Burning Gas. It is the like
another good name.
Yeah, I know. That's what my brother said. He's like, finally you've come up with some good names and it didn't have to be me. And it's like, oh, I just had a streak of it, I guess. So Burning Gas is like a rowdy, like it doesn't have to be NFTs, but it's just kind of talking about anything that comes to our mind. I usually host it with Tropo Farmer, but we'll have guests like Jake Osmond, Deez. There's going to be some cool guests coming up on that that I'm excited to have, but that one definitely gets the craziest. Like we've come up with crazy ideas, like doing collabs with 23andMe, using DNA for like being the seed or hash for a generative art mint. Like we go way wide out of left field. And then we're also starting another segment called Nft Roundtable. It'll be some of the biggest names in the space. So think people like G Money and bigger people that we bring in. And we'll basically have a topic, and like the 5 biggest people that I can get, we'll just talk about that topic for about 20 to 30 minutes. And it's just kind of a good thing to get like the influencers / the big names opinions on an important topic. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that is going to be announced within the next week on a whole bunch of other shows that I'm also launching.
Awesome. Awesome. And, the thing that I really appreciate and that I really like that you've been doing for the NFT space is bringing in video and voice, which is obviously what we try to do too. Because, so much of the space lives on Discord and Twitter in writing. I think it's very important because it's one thing to be able to kind of like write a lot about NFTs and consume information via text. And obviously that's a key part because of how important Discord is. It's how a lot of news breaks. It's kind of the fastest way for people to just immediately be able to connect each other to each other and be able to convey information, right? In like kind of chat room Slack sort of format on Discord. But the deeper discussions, like what you just talked about on Burning Gas and some of these other shows that you do, those were kind of missing in a lot of ways. And we obviously try to fill that gap. It sounds like you're filling that gap. I think it's really important to do more voice, more video. A lot of people in the NFT space are anonymous. So I'll be really interested to see how someone like G Money, for example, if he's going to be coming onto your content, how he presents himself. So that's just another layer of creativity that we'll see when influencers are presenting themselves, with that anon kind of background. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I'll say this for anybody who's doing content, I've gotten like very, very in depth on where I think we need to go as a community. Because every day I find a new person who's doing like news or here's what's happening or a quick recap. And like all the eyes on the space are currently on Twitter, Discord. That's the only thing places really it is. And you're trying to push people onto all the other platforms to consume, like on YouTube or if it's a podcast. But I think we need to, as like content creators and people that are trying to get and onboard people, because that's what you do. Like you are somebody who is going to grow and find people somehow by like either search or just because they come across you and bring them in. We need to find the people that are like doing NFTs on like the edge of a new vertical that's about to begin. So I'm really excited to like start talking to like college athletes, professional athletes, DJs, esports gamers, like those people that are about to hop into the space and doing it on like their native platforms where their fans are, is going to be really, really interesting to see how that dynamic changes with like the traditional crypto Twitter Discord community. But it's funny because my girlfriend says that she's like, Hunter's job is Twitter and Discord now, and I was like, yeah, that's my job description, Twitter and Discord. Exactly.
Pretty much. I mean, that's where everything kind of lives. Twitter is sort of like LinkedIn for entrepreneurs. Like if you're looking to like really connect with people in an entrepreneurial way versus like get a job way, it's all happening on Twitter, across all verticals, right? So yeah, that's really funny that she said that. We're going to talk more about the onboarding part, and I think that what you said is so true. Yeah. We saw that onboarding from like Gary Vee, and from we're seeing it from more and more influencers in the space. The people that come in, and it's not like a cash grab. The ones that really want to make an impact. Just before we kind of get started and start talking shop, I just want to let everybody in the in the crowd know, the people that are watching us and the people that watch this in the future, Hunter is really, really knowledgeable because he talks to everybody in the space, and really, like, your job is Discord and Twitter, like we just said. So you hear all these different opinions. When you do a 6-hour spaces, that's a revolving door of people that are frequent contributors and people that are just first-time contributors. Like on one of the spaces I was on with you, someone was like, yeah, this is my first time like speaking on spaces, and everyone welcomed him with open arms, and he gave really good insights, right? Because everybody has different perspectives that is following the space, and as you follow the space, you're able to kind of pick up on some of this stuff. So everyone that's watching, feel free to type any questions in the chat, because obviously I can do my best to answer them, but I think Hunter is a really good person to hear from too. That's a lot different than other people that we feature on this channel, because he's so active and because he's doing these marathon spaces where he hears all these different opinions. So don't be afraid to pop a question in the chat. We'll get to it. But yeah, just to start talking shop right now, the first story we wanted to cover, the Whales NFT Weird Whales project, very big story over the past 36 hours. Why don't you give everyone a high level kind of summary of what went down here?
I mean, so the big thing here is to know the amount of velocity, volume, and the speed of just the way things happen. This project got picked up after, I think, there was like the Banana Project was like helping and tweeted something out, and it just got picked up by influencers. And essentially, it went from, hey, there's these whales who can mint, to, oh my God, everybody, you need to mint these whales. They're so cool. And the FOMO started. Like, I got the text from a few people that were like, hey, you got to go mint these whales, got to go mint these whales. And we saw the mint price of 0.025 completely sell out, all 3,300 of them. The secondary was on fire. We had like a floor of like 0.4. And it was bananas. Like, I've never seen a secondary market activity feed where it was like you have to scroll to get past a minute ago. Like, you have to literally scroll, and you couldn't click. You had to like scroll halfway down the page to click on one to buy now. And so I bought a few on the secondary, and then immediately after like 150 ETH worth of volume, the narrative changed when a couple influencers and bigger accounts were like, this is a fake 12-year-old. The clip art, it's stolen. I think we're getting catfished, and the narrative completely changed. And
because it was a 12-year-old, right? That was like a big story of the whales, is people were like, oh, wait, a 12-year-old made this, and then it becomes like a first of its kind project, and that added to the hype, right?
Yeah, so that was part of the hype, is that like, this is a 12-year-old who did this, and it was well done. Like, the website was really good, the minting process was flawless. So like, everybody was like, wow, like, this is going to be a story. That was like the speculative buy, was that Gary Vee is going to pick this up. The news networks are going to pick this up. Like, it's going to be all we talk about for 2 days, kind of thing. And they were true. Like, it's all we are going to talk about for 2 days.
We're talking about it right now.
Right. So like, they're right in that aspect. But when this FUD hit, I've never seen a floor go up so fast, come down so fast, where we saw a floor that was in like the 0.3s within an hour be down to 0.03. And people literally that bought like rare ones for 0.8 were listing them for 0.1. They just were like, I want it. I'm done. Paper hands. I don't care. I'm not holding it to the grave. I'm just done. And so that happened. The entire market flipped. They did like another 200 ETH in volume because everybody was trying to get out. Just for him to tweet when he wakes up in the morning, 5 a.m. UK time, no, that's my project. Like, I'm real. It's mine. I'm going to talk about it today. Just for everybody, like, he's real, and for it to come right back up. So it was like this rise, meteoric fall, just to rise again. And then it kept going today as more and more people are like, okay, he's a real guy. He got help from his dad. So what? It's going to be a big story, and I want a piece of history for NFTs. I mean, the big takeaway here is that people FOMO'd in, people didn't do their own research, they acted on other people's opinions, and then like, there's just too many hot takes. Like, I've been pretty adamant that we need to reduce the hot takes. We need to be more of like a supportive community. We need to stop trying to be the one who's like, like, everybody says this, but I'm going to be right and stand out and get more followers. And I don't know. It seemed like a real casino with that project, and it highlights kind of the state of the industry right now, where people are just speculatively buying anything that's cheap and hoping to 10x's. And I get it. Like, the risk is you lose $1,000. On the upside, you can make $10,000. So, you just need to hit 1 in 10 technically to come out even. And if you hit 2 out of 10 on that, you're on top. So it's just kind of the status of where we are as an industry. What do you think? Like, do you think to get away from that? Are you okay with it? Because I know there's some people that are like, it's fine. Like, that's what venture capitalism is. Like, it is a calculated bet. Like, do you think that way, or do you think it's not sustainable?
Well, I definitely think that it's a casino. There's no question about that. The collectibles market is an absolute casino, and it's a casino that people are really excited about. Like, one of my good friends from high school, not involved in NFTs at all, suddenly is 3 days in. He follows Alex Becker. Alex Becker tweeted about the Doge Pound on Saturday. He bought the Doge Pound. The Doge Pound mooned at first. Now it's down again. Now he's bought this like Galaxy Defenders project. We can pull that one up. It's that alien project that sold out today. He's totally hooked at this point, right? So my thing is it's a casino, but it is, let's call it like it is. It is a manipulated casino, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and some influencers have been pointing it out. I mean, influencers are a big part of it, right? People get paid to promote projects. People band together, like whales band together to manipulate prices, to show velocity of sales. There's a lot of different things that happen with this story. The hot take thing that you brought up is so accurate, because Twitter is all about like that mic drop tweet, right? It's all about putting out that tweet that goes like, gets some sort of level of going viral, and then that person can get 100, 200, 500 new followers just like that. It's like a business in itself. And if you can grow a Twitter following, it really is, And so when I see that, that's where it leads to my concerns. But having said that, right, if you can find a way to maneuver your way in to be able to get into some of these circles where people are bringing up projects that like very early, like it's all about, for the most part, getting in early. Sometimes it's about being an incredible speculator and maybe buying the dip, but it's a lot different than buying like a security or buying something like Bitcoin that has hard fundamentals that you can grasp and totally understand. Right. So if it corrects by plus a ton of liquidity, right? Whereas here, if a project goes to zero, good luck getting out of it, right? So those are my thoughts. The whole dynamic with this kid, maybe he made it, maybe he didn't. Now he's speaking out and he did make it. It's taken a lot of influencers for an absolute ride. And that's what my whole Twitter feed has been for the past 48 hours.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that, one, stepped up and said, yeah, I got it wrong. That was the wrong way to approach it. Huge respect to those people. And I even stepped out there because I tweeted about it. And I was like, look, I have a couple of thousand followers at this point. I need to do my own research before I even mention a project, because my Discord was like, hey, Hunter, I bought one because you tweeted about it. And I was like, I didn't say one, but I just said these I just tweeted like the whales, like everybody's talking about the whales. And it just kind of shows that like people just want a reason to buy something right now. And if you're going to tweet about it and anybody's going to listen to you, kind of make sure that like you're being either neutral or saying like, okay, do your own research, but here's my take. But yeah, just wild all around. So I still hold one, full disclosure. It's an alien whale. I think it'll be interesting to see this play out over the next day or two. Does the narrative disappear and this crumbles, or are people making like a long-term bet that this kid is like going to be somebody big in the space in 2 years, because now he has all this publicity, people are giving him a podium to stand behind and talk. And clearly, like, he's young, like he's got years and years ahead of him. Like, what if he does another project and it's big? I made the prediction that whatever he does next will have gas wars like art blocks to mint. That is my prediction.
For sure. And, we're going to get to art blocks, and I want to talk about, I want to talk about that. I want to ask you a couple things. First of all, the two collectibles projects, if you want to call them that, it's kind of weird to call them that, but basically CryptoPunks and Bored Apes, those are the ones that have basically proven like that long-term investment thing. To me, there isn't really another one that has truly proven itself for a long-term investment. Do you think that on this market cycle, if we want to call it that, because I don't even know what to call it at this point, because it kind of just seems like NFTs are here to stay, considering the rate that people are being onboarded. Do you think that there are more long-term winners from this collectible saga, or do you think that the market just changes again, like it changed from the Nifty Gateway fine art structure to the current structure?
So, that's a really good question. I got asked that today because I'm part of a documentary that's being made, and that was probably like the most eye-opening question, where I talked myself into feeling like, oh, like that's a great point. Which was, who's winning right now? And I think right now, overall, it is artists. Like, if you're an artist, the only like direction you can go is up. Like, the worst is you just don't sell art. I think on the collector and buyer side, there are, a percentage of winners, but I think that there are a quiet majority of losers who are being very speculative. They are buying in at the top or buying up on this ramp, and they're just bag holding right now. And I think that number is probably growing. And if that number keeps growing, we do see kind of this bubble burst where people either leave the space or they just start listing super low on some of these projects, and they start to collapse. I do think the avatar projects are the highest risk right now that don't have strong communities around them. Cool Cats is one that, like, I've had this debate, like, what happens to it? Well, they have a ghost collab, there's a strong community, people are still using them as their profile photos. We have the craniums. I think the community around them is still pretty strong, but you don't see them as much. They don't have that standout. But I think they stay around. But like stuff like the goats, they have utility, but I don't see them having that same, like, oh, it's a profile photo, like, and it's cool and like it's gonna have cultural significance. I don't think so. I think it's a really good execution of a breeding where you have a depreciating supply, but I just don't see them sticking around possibly unless like they get that social significance, because right now it's all social signaling. It's all like, look what I have. And if it's not that, it's look how much I can make with this, i.e. Punk's comic, where there is DeFi, parts to it. So, I like Cool Cats. I like the Cats. I like Punks. I like Bored Ape Yacht Club. I think those three have solidified themselves. But I do think anybody who doesn't, like, if you have a profile photo that you put up and it doesn't get you like some clout, I don't know.
Not gonna make it. Not gonna make
It's a
it.
very speculative kind of take, but like I just think that that's the culture we live in. Like, do you see people trying to like show off, like a 2018 Prius? It's like that anybody could go buy. It's just like, it's a car. But you see people flexing a Lambo. They'll have significance. They'll have that kind of demand because people want to have that like clout factor. And that's like what a punk is. And I think Bored Ape Yacht Club is like a social token to get into something. Like, if you join a Spaces, most likely the host, when they see you are a Bored Ape Yacht Club member, is like, okay, they're an OG. They've been around, or they have money to jump up here, and they're part of the community, and they're going to be around. That's what I kind of see happening. I guess in the audience, there's like, are you new to goats? I like the goats, I do, but I do worry about if they can stick around. I like all the projects, really. Like, I don't think there's any that I'm like, that's stupid and I hate it and I want it to go to zero. I'm just thinking, when there is pullback, where is there going to be people that are like, I don't care what the price is, I'm not selling. And where are the people going to be like, oh crap, I need to get out of this. This was I'm in it for the money. I don't care about, what is this profile or what it means to me. It's just the money and it's an asset and I want out.
Yeah, and I mean, people are growing that emotional attachment with projects like Cats, right? And I think, people bought goats because they wanted that to be the same thing. And I bought 2 goats. I did sell them for a profit. I like the artwork on goats, absolutely. But I feel, and I was talking about this with some of the other guests that we have on this show, when a project really has like true energy, you can really feel it. It's like it's bigger than any group of people. Bored Apes obviously falls into that category. CryptoPunks falls into that category. And when Cool Cats first dropped, it really did fall into that category. I'd say the project that I'm watching closest, that I don't own any of, but I would consider buying, I believe you and I and some other people were talking about it on a Spaces yesterday, is the Lucky Duck project. Only because of the art. I don't know anything about the founders. I don't know anything about the roadmap. I know that they, went up in value a lot, but now they've kind of had a pullback. But I really do just genuinely like the art. And if I was going to buy an affordable profile pic that I think is pretty badass and would give me like a little bit of social clout, if it's just because the art is dope, the ducks are interesting to me. I don't know. Sup ducks. Did I call it Lucky Ducks? Yeah, sup ducks.
Sup ducks. Yeah. No, I like the art there too. Like, I think it's like, for you to be a successful avatar project, it needs to be like show emotion, have like, I don't know if it's like, it has to like kind of rub and be edgy and like, oh, this is who I am. Like, this is the same reason we saw people, back in the day, like riding around in the bouncy car, the low riders with the air suspension. It's the same reason people blast music with the boom boxes. It's the same reason today people wear Nikes and Yeezys. Like, it's a social expression, and the more expressive it is, the more likely it's going to connect to somebody who's like, yeah, that's me, or I want to be like seen as this kind of person. But there's other projects that just don't have, like, they're just not, there's not that, like, oh, this one is so different from this one and so different from the next. They're all very unique and expressive. And I think that's why, like, Bulls on the Block floundered partially, was they all kind of had the same vibe. And we look at that. That's sick. Like, that is like Miami bucket hat. I'm a sick duck and I'm ready to, like, just have a good time. And, like, there's emotion. Like, you can get the vibe of who that is. That's cool. I would buy it. I might buy it right now on stream.
I agree with you. Like, I like this party shirt. Straight up, man, you hit the nail on the head. And now that we're talking about this and you and I are speaking positively about an NFT project, I wanted to just segue into one other question that I had that you kind of alluded to earlier is, we encounter this with our channel now. We have, we're pushing like 1.5K subscribers on this channel. So people watch the videos. Awesome. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. I mean, obviously we have a long... Thanks, brother. Yeah, we have a long way to go. But, then I look at you've got thousands of followers on Twitter. How do you think about the responsibility of someone in your shoes or someone in the shoes of our channel when it comes to discussing projects when you have a following? Like, you mentioned that people said they literally bought something because you mentioned it, or bought something because you tweeted about it. People have told us that they bought projects because we talked about them on stream. Even if you say it's not financial advice, I feel like that does fall on deaf. Is your approach that, you are game to pump projects, or you think influencers should pump projects, or is your approach that it should be treated like journalism and it should be viewed objectively and, no sort of advisory factor involved? What are your thoughts on that?
So I understand that, like, everything I just said, I had some positive things to say and definitely some negative things about projects. I'm one person who will never buy something and then say go buy it. If I say go buy something and I own it, it happens to be that way, that I own it and I believe in it. Like, I'll always say good things about Punk's comic. I really believe in it. But I think there is a huge responsibility. Like, if I talk very well about something and it goes wrong, then if any of my followers took my advice on that, it's kind of my fault, because I'm promoting something and I know I have that platform and there is a responsibility. And I know there's going to be some people like, Hunter, it's not your fault. They need to do their own research. The world we live in right now and what it means to be an influencer is you're usually giving out information that people are looking to act on or better themselves. So I try to do, just what my opinion is, and make sure that opinion is not going to put people, if they were to act on it, in a bad financial position. It's hard. I had 150 followers on Twitter 2 months ago, and yeah, right. And so now today I have almost 4,500. It's like getting the keys to an expensive car, and all you've been driving around is a bicycle with training wheels on it before. It's a learning experience. So I'm trying to be cautious and understand that now I do have people listening to me. I don't know. Has it been the same way for you? I don't know. It still feels like you've had a following on other channels and other things you've done. I know you have a kind of like podcasts and worked with people before. Do you feel that same pressure as well? Before you speak, do you think, well, should I say that kind of stuff? And I'm just curious for you how it is.
Yeah. So for me, the interesting thing is on that subject is that I've always been the behind the scenes guy. I've always been the content builder, but there was a bigger brand, or like when I was doing music video directing, there was a musician. So I feel like those musicians that I worked with and worked for would have felt what you're talking about, but it's not something that I've felt. And even now, right? Like, I have like 500 followers on Twitter, which, I get new followers every day. I see my slow organic growth, and I'm excited about it. And, you know, I hope I can accomplish what you've accomplished in all spaces, right? I want to obviously get as big as possible and make this my full-time job and just dedicate my life to it, right? But for example, Nifty Culture, the brand, we have 8,000 followers on Twitter. And so fortunately, I'm not tasked with managing all the communication. But when I talk to
Right.
Malachi, you know, my partner Malachi, he says that we get hit up every damn day by people wanting us to pump their projects, people wanting to pay us to pump projects. And
Yep.
we've accepted 0 of those so
0.
far, if only because we're still figuring out how to navigate that. And that's why I asked you, you know, I would be curious, like, just to ask one more question on this and then we can move on, because I know this is becoming more of like an influencer discussion versus like
No, but
a
it's
market
an important
discussion.
question to have. I totally think it's one that needs to be kind of aired out there because there is so much of it happening and people don't realize. Like, I know, you know, probably Malachi knows as well. Like, you'll see somebody post something, not say it's sponsored, but be like, I got that same exact worded DM this morning, because I see it every morning.
Yeah, like they just copied and pasted it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. So let me just ask you, would you consider, and sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but would you consider accepting money to promote a project? And if you did, how would you go about it?
So the only time I'm going to accept money in any form for what I'm doing is if it's a sponsorship that I wholeheartedly believe in, and most likely it's one that I went after and was like, "Hey, I love your stuff. I want you to sponsor the show." Because obviously, at the end of the day, we do need to monetize some of what we're doing.
Sure.
We're not going to monetize everything because there is like other business things that happen within kind of our model. But like, if I were to do a sponsor for the Morning Mint, I would go to like Cometeer Coffee and be like, "Hey, I like the
I
coffee. I
like your
drink it.
coffee.
We like the coffee. The fans like the coffee. I like the coffee. Sponsor the show."
Let's
Um,
do it.
that's kind of like how I'm approaching this. I don't think I would go to, you know, art blocks and say, "Hey, give me money and I'll talk about art blocks." It doesn't feel organic. If I like your project, I'll organically talk about it. I'm not going to take money for it. So if you see me with sponsorships, it's mostly going to be like that, or a conference that I think is good for people to go to, or a tool, software, stuff that like I genuinely would use. And if I bought, I'd be happy with. Otherwise, I'm not going to take the money, not going to ruin my brand over, you know, a few $1,000s for a show. Like, it just makes no sense to me. And I've even circled around even saying that's even doesn't make sense. Like, why take a sponsorship for what I'm doing and just put out content? And again, there are other ways to monetize outside of just making this content. So yeah, I'm very against and very, very, very cautious with that kind of stuff.
Well, you're one of the few, because it does seem like there's a lot of that going on out there, but I'm not going to pocket watch and I'm not going to hate on anybody for getting money. And, you know, obviously we're going to have to figure out how to navigate that as time goes on and we're in the process, but it's good to hear from someone else that's in a situation, really probably in a more kind of, you know, more visible situation given your Twitter following and how active you are there. So I'm glad to hear that you're kind of navigating it in a solid way. So to kind of transition here, we talked about onboarding. So we saw a lot of people get onboarded at first to Nifty Gateway because you could buy these NFTs that were appreciating in value with a credit card. So that onboarded a lot of people to the space. Now we're seeing people onboarded to OpenSea because of the collectibles, you know, kind of lottery ticket, you know, roulette frenzy. Like, it's like going to a casino. What do you think could be the next sort of onboarding situation for new people to come into the space?
That's a good question. So like Nifty was a big one. Top Shot, VFriend. I asked one of these questions in a Twitter thread, and I was like, "What was your first NFT? And then what was the moment you realized you were going to buy NFTs the rest of your life?" And it was like, you're right, Nifty, Top Shot, and then VFriends was a huge one just because of Gary's exposure. And I think the core thread for Nifty was it was easy. The core thing for Top Shot was it was something I enjoyed to buy and I wanted, and it made me exciting. Like, I follow sports, so cool. It's a new thing. I'll buy it. my prediction for where we see people come in next are college athletes, professional athletes, and esports. Those three verticals will be the hottest things in NFTs over the next 12 months. I'll put my whole reputation on it just because those are the easiest areas for us to digitalize and are set up to digitalize. And it is where the least amount of fans have kind of touched and felt NFTs, in my opinion. Like the average 14-year-old who's playing Fortnite right now probably might not know about NFTs, but the second Fortnite or Call of Duty or Fall Guys make it so you can earn NFTs or you can use an NFT like a Meebit in the game, it's going to be like throwing a match into a powder keg room. It's just going to go off. The same thing with college sports. Like there are a lot of guys who will trade Robinhood and options, think this NFT thing is a really stupid game, but the second you see NFTs be available for their favorite college team and they can make money and collect, they'll jump right into it because it kind of speaks to them. And I really think, especially like some of the influencers, like if you look at like Z Laner, Doc, these other like Call of Duty players that have these big followings, them doing their own either NFTs like VFriends or playing games of NFTs is just going to put it in the eyes of so many more people. So I definitely see those three areas being the next big wave that we see come in.
For sure. And I think video games, for example, there's already been digital assets in video games. Like when I think to 10, 15 years ago, I knew people that played RuneScape and they would actually buy like a sword that was in RuneScape off of somebody else for actual money.
Right.
And so that's the same thing as an NFT. It wasn't minted on the blockchain, but it was a digital asset that had value to one person that was, sold to them by another person. So video games will be a very smooth transition. And I think when we look at how it is over time, the level of integration and the interoperability of NFTs from inside video games to outside is going to be nuts. Like, having those NFTs displayed / in the game / things that I can't even think of yet, I think are going to really blow our minds. The athlete thing is a really good one because people are just such big sports fans. And we've already seen it a little bit with LaMelo Ball, who I think is the only NBA player that's kind of done a proper individual project, outside of Top Shot on his own. And that's a very interesting project. I've had someone come on that's part of that community on our channel to talk about that because it's a very dedicated community.
It is a well-done project.
It's a well-done project. It's basically the modern day fan club. Like when I was a little kid and I got like Sports Illustrated for kids, I remember you would see like the Penny Hardaway fan club or whatever. I think you're a little younger than me, so maybe for you it was like
I've done my research. I've done my research.
Yeah, so, but anyways, this is the best way to do a fan club ever. Like you can talk to LaMelo Ball in a Discord server. You can win prizes by owning his NFT. You can, I think, literally get on like a call with him, like in a group. That's one of the features of one of the NFTs. So sports is an absolute, like, for certain onboarding path. One onboarding path that I've been thinking of, I don't know if it's in the next 6 to 12 months, the timeline that you mentioned, but I think that event ticketing is going to absolutely onboard people to NFTs because inevitably all tickets to events will be NFTs because it's just better and easier. And then the way that it'll make people wake up to NFTs is when they buy their Coachella ticket or they buy their ticket to a Future concert or to a Drake concert, when they then get an offer on that ticket, which is an NFT that's considerably higher than what they paid for it, and they literally just have to hit yes to accept it and they make money, then they'll understand the power of the technology, the legitimacy of it, and the ability to make money. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the frictionlessness of it is huge. Like removing the idea of, having to deal with like a third party that's slow, and having to deal with it's so easy. And that's a huge part. I hadn't thought of ticketing. I think ticketing, because it falls so much closer to like a corporation and there is like this already built structure and
Live Nation,
Right.
Ticketmaster.
And I know what Live Nation is doing behind the scenes right now. I know they're cranking their asses out on putting something together. And so is every other ticketing platform. And if they aren't, they're going to fall behind very quickly. And there's a lot of startups that I know about on the side that are very very quiet but nimbly trying to say, hey, we're going to do it first. We're going to do it better. I just don't think where we run into an issue is you and me, we'll be like, sick, MetaMask, let's do it, I'll buy.
Yep.
The area we run into is where do like the average consumer hasn't used it, can they just use a credit card to buy? Do they understand that that's an NFT? Do they get value out of it? That onboarding process needs to be clean. If it is not clean and it's a bad first experience with an NFT, and people are like, why can't it just be simple like before, where I just put in credit card information, buy, I'll pay the extra $35 fee, whatever. I just want it, and I want it to work and be easy the first time. It'll be disaster. So I think there's also kind of like this shared responsibility of anybody who's going to go into ticketing or try to branch out into a new industry with NFTs, that you need to understand that if you give somebody a bad experience, they're likely going to have a bad thought process and like think NFTs are bad and stupid and why can't it just be done the old way? Which is why I give so much props to Gary Vee. Like, he white glove
crushed it.
They went above and beyond. I think Top Shot did well making it accessible, but they dropped the ball in customer service.
Big time.
I think all they had to do was be more communicative and just talk to people a little bit better. Nifty's done well. Like, it was very easy, and if there was an issue, you could get in contact with somebody. There were some issues, like if you're transferring out, that you would run into, but that was pretty much, I think, the best one from like an experience viewpoint for me. And I think the ticketing platforms are going to run into that. It has to be very well done and handled well. Otherwise, they'll flounder very quickly. But how many people do you think are in like our space right now, watching these videos, understand NFTs, buying them? I think it has to be like 50,000 or a little less than that, in my opinion, right?
It's a good question. It's hard to tell because so many people are coming in and so many people are leaving at the same time.
Oh, you think there are a lot of people leaving?
Well, I don't think that there's a lot of people leaving, but I do think that there are people that come in, maybe not as much now as before March, that kind of ape in because they think it only goes up, and then they end up holding the bag and they have a bad taste in their mouth. Like, I know some friends that did that, and now if you even bring up NFTs to them, it's like bringing up somebody that died or something. They really don't like talking about it. I don't bring it up anymore. I don't even talk about this project. I can't talk about like our YouTube channel doing well. They're just not into it. But that's obviously like a specific scenario. There's no question that there's like 10, 20x more people coming in than leaving. But I hadn't thought of just how many people are in NFTs. I would look at like a G Money or like a Beanie, how many Twitter followers they have. Then I try to figure out like the next tier up, people that are natively NFT and only in NFTs, right? Because you can look at Gary Vee, he's got people from all different walks of life.
Right.
So you can't really look at him. And then I'd probably look at like, what's the biggest YouTube channel? How many views do they get on every video that they put out? 50,000, I think, is a very safe bet. I mean, all of these 10,000 piece projects sell out, although there are obviously whales that buy a lot.
But the holders on a lot of these 10,000 projects are in the 2,000 to 3,000 range. Like, it's not like, oh, we're selling out 10,000 to 10,000 people individually. Which is where it's like, yeah, there are people that's buying this up, and even at the high point, you might get into the high 3,000s. Like, it's the same. I think it is like the same 10,000 wallets just cycling through all these different projects and selling to each other. And you're either in on the joke or you're not. Like somebody mentioned in the chat, I feel bad for the people who bought pickles at 0.15 and weren't in on the joke. RIP to them. It's true. Like, if you came in and you just saw this pickle project going up, you bought there, people were offing them. That was the price. Like, hey, top's in, we're gonna sell, and the party's over, kind of thing. And then I think a lot of the people that were in that project went to the next one, and they hoped that they bought low and sold high, and they weren't the ones buying high and holding the bag or selling low. there's some really good analysis on this on like Dune Analytics, as well as some other platforms where people are like analyzing the unique holders per project, crossover, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think it's as big as we all think it is. It's not like there's 250,000 people here right now. I think it's around 50K, and like the big projects, it's about like the same 10 to 15,000 people playing on the the right ones.
Yeah, I mean, you got one fan in the crowd here saying that they think 50K is right, and I think that's a good estimate. It's something I hadn't thought of, so thanks for kind of like getting my mind thinking in that direction. So yeah, to transition a little bit here, art blocks. Let's talk about that. What are your thoughts on where art blocks is at right now and where it's going to go?
So art blocks, in my opinion, is an established blue chip. Like that is a project that'll be quality. Collectors, institutions will come in, buy and hold because they think it'll be. They know in the long term it'll be sought after, historic, and there are quality artists in there. I do think that right now Art Blocks has a lot of projects that are either overvalued from a sense of like I think Fidenzas are possibly overvalued. I do think it's probably one of the top 4 or 5 projects on the platform for like the algorithm and how beautiful it looks. Like that's how I look at the art. Like how does it look? How does everything differentiate? Is the algorithm complex? Like some of these, the algorithm is not that complex. The art looks okay. And I don't think, and they get like a lot of love, but then you have Fidenza, which is like one of the best in my opinion. But I do think like there's this huge hype ramp up where everybody bought in. We're seeing a lot of people, just speculatively buy. It's that whole gambling, thing that we mentioned at the beginning. We see squiggles that were bought for 3.5 to 4 now being listed for 2. We see Fidenzas, I think, are getting a little weak. Like we had this huge meteoric rise, and I think we'll likely see that market get a little soft. But I do think that there are some like absolute gems within this project, like Algo. I forget what it's called now. It's like Algo Plot or Algo. It's like, but it's an animated with music piece, and it's like 0.8 ETH, 0.7 ETH. And where it just doesn't get that like love where it's like the differentiator of a lot of the other pieces within the collection. But I'm like 1,000% for R blocks. I think it's a safe bet to buy, but there are definitely projects within it that I think are just bought up a little too much right now. And then there's others that are just not bought up enough because the narrative's not there and people aren't looking to see, okay, where does this fit in for the story? So yeah, right there, the cube, if you scroll up a little bit, what is it called? One more up.
Algorithms.
Yeah. So those are sick. Like, and I have a lot of friends that are buying them right now because, there is a music, there is animation, there is like, it's like a new kind of art. Like we don't see this usually. So I think this is one of them that hasn't gotten the love it deserves, in my opinion. But yeah, like Art Blocks is sick. I love it.
It's really cool to think that that's based on an algorithm. I don't like have the first clue of how someone figured out how to do that and how to, do these generative art projects, but it's obviously, a huge part of the NFT space. I think the Fidenza stuff is incredible the way it looks, and the fact that that's coming from an algorithm is nuts. I haven't been as close to this project as it sounds like you have. When did the prices start to explode for this?
Let me think. I was in the car with my dad. We were driving for vacation. That was 3 weeks ago. It was 3 weeks ago. And what happened was people were completing the sets, completing, one piece from all the original first series pieces. And it was kind of like this grail, like, worth 25 plus ETH at that time. And when somebody completed it, there's this whole narrative like, this is what the whales want, this is what institutions are going to want, and people just start buying everything they could get their hands on. We saw floors that were like 0.1 quickly go to 0.4. We saw squiggles that were like 0.6 quickly go over 1, and at this point they ran all the way to 3.5. And it was just this whole narrative of like, this is what the whales want, this is what the DAOs are going to want, this is what the institutions coming in are going to want. So everybody just started buying. My background is in artificial intelligence, programmer. I've actually been working on my own project for art block submission, and I think maybe from like a programmer's view, a lot of these are works of art. Like they purely are like works of art where it doesn't matter what that seed or hash is in, it'll generate something that is wildly different but still looks beautiful, and you can see it as part of that series. So those are the ones I think will be sought after the most, in my opinion. Like squiggles, like they all look different. You can tell if it's rare or not, but at the same time, you're like, that's a squiggle.
Exactly. I know the squiggle phenomenon is probably one that people will be scratching their heads on. I wonder how much of the squiggle, I don't know. I don't know how much staying power it'll have, but obviously it's very expensive right now.
Amazing staying power. Like I don't think you'll see floor squiggles right now just because we are in this soft zone go for 10 ETH. But I can see that happening. Like I don't think it's unquestionable that we see a base squiggle go for 10 ETH because it is like the genesis project of the platform. And if you're sitting here thinking, okay, I see art blocks being the sought after collection, and it being, I don't even know what the comparative to this is right now. Like I don't even know how to compare it to, but if you think it's going to long-term win and be sought after, and it's going to be like, oh, I have an art blocks piece in my house or in my wallet, I think it's like, I own a squiggle though, which is like the first of the first, and it's rare, is going to be a big thing. Like I'm going to put my squiggle above the fireplace here just because it's cool. It's a talking point. Although I will say, like, the animation is kind of hard to get, so you do need to get a digital screen. You can't just print it because the animation for the squiggles is a huge part of it. Not many people know about that either. They think the squiggles are just a static image, but there is an animated, color change to it.
Yeah, people have to keep that in mind. And that also just helps with the fact that it's natively digital and encourages the digital display, which we're going to see more and more of. But that's a big thing missing from NFTs that I don't think people talk about so much.
There are no good ones.
There's no like consumer grade affordable ones just yet. As that changes, I think that the fine art pieces of NFTs will kind of come back. So I mean, great conversation on this, Hunter. I want to just switch gears to one last subject, and then I'm going to let you go.
Sure.
We had one audience member ask about Curio Cards. So Curio Cards are apparently the oldest NFTs. They predate the CryptoPunks, and Gary Vee recently discovered them. They've obviously been out for quite a while, and he's pumped them a couple of times, and yet it seems as though they're still relatively affordable. So have you paid much attention to Curio Cards, and what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so I've done my research on them. I think this is like the definition of collectible in this space. Like they're like, anybody buying this is buying this because it's like another, like, hey, it was early and like the first, and I just want to be able to say, like, I own a Curio card that it was early. And I don't know if the investor in me, the person who's very disciplined, buys on just it being collective, or if I buy on like, okay, I see that there's going to be demand. I see that there is like utility in this. And then it plays into like X, Y, Z of an investment theory. So I think these are very collective, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to think and decide, like, on stream here live, my real take on them. I think they're historic. Like there's no way around it. But the market, like, you can't say like the market's deciding right now. It's a speculative play that, are people going to value that you own a very early old NFT in 10 years? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, and I think why I'm like so like on the fence is when you pull out your phone, you go, hey, I have my phone here. Look at my wallet. is somebody going to scroll through and see, you know, number 2, this acorn, and be like, you have a nuts Curio card? That's sick. I don't know. And I think only time will tell. If you're somebody who's like very high conviction on this, and you're like, I think because it's such a early historic project, it'll have value, and you're okay, and like you've done your research, do it. Like, that is your decision. It's the same reason I paid 0.5 for a Mooncat. It was like my first NFT, and I haven't sold, and I'm going to hold, is because I have conviction. I've done my research that it is an early project that people will see and be like, oh, that's a Mooncat. That's interesting. It's very old. It doesn't get me clout. Like, they're very cheap and free, and there's so many of them, and a lot of them look the same, but it is one of those things that people go, ah, that's a Mooncat. So I'm not sure. It's Curio Cards makes me think of like garage sales and like, you know, hey, I have the 1975 Sands Casino coffee mug. It's old. It was like the first coffee mug from the casino. Are people going to value that though?
I agree with you, and they feel old. Even though they're digital,
they feel old.
They feel old, which is so funny. If I bought this one first, I think, not commenting on the price, I just like this Wendy's play on it. And the other thing is like, the market has definitely not decided that these are valuable, because if you can get something like this that predates the CryptoPunks that Gary V pumped for less than 0.2 ETH, the market has not responded. So and they were really cheap before he pumped them.
They were really cheap.
He pumped them twice.
But then I also like the other side of this is you can buy this for 0.6, but there are projects out there like the Shai Mudu project. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, who is like one of the most famous photographers for rap.
Right. Yes, I do know that one. He's got like the Tupac pictures, and he died recently. Is that right?
Yep. Those are like historic pieces where there is provenance to them. Like, it was on the cover of Times in 2013, and this is a famous photo that's seen everywhere. And there is a cool story behind, like, he only got to 19 of the photos before he passed away. I think that's like, you have to weigh, like, do I think buying something just because it's old and I'm hoping people think there's cultural relevance to it in a few years, or do I buy something that has cultural relevance and there's a story behind it and it's cool and I vibe with it? And if somebody sees a photo of Tupac, I'm like, yeah, that is the photo of Tupac that was on Times. I own it. Like that. I own one of the editions of that actual photo from the actual photographer. That's where I start to say, I'm not sure about Curio Cards from like an investment standpoint, but as like a collectible, it's like, yeah, it's a piece of history.
I love your garage sale metaphor. You know, it's exactly the same, and they just feel old. And I have interest in them. You know, I don't have enough disposable income to just like ape in, but I have interest in them. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. We got more questions, but we've gone for an hour, so I can't keep Hunter.
Be cautious of your time. I know I talked a whole bunch. Hopefully this was helpful for somebody. I don't know if I just rambled the whole time. But I really do enjoy talking about, you know, NFTs and these projects.
Dude, absolutely. You killed it. Thanks so much for coming on. I'll continue to jump in your Twitter spaces and be part of that revolving door. Everyone, Hunter has a YouTube channel. I'll link to it in the description. Follow him on Twitter. That's at Hunter Orrell. Really big things popping from him in the NFT space. Look out for his Twitter spaces. Anywhere else that they can find you, Hunter?
Twitter, Discord, YouTube are like the 3 places I'm at.
You have a Discord.
I do have a Discord. But yeah, like if you guys want to really keep up with me, Twitter's the place to follow me. And that's usually where I post most of my thoughts and content. All kind of flows back to there. So yeah,
nice.
Twitter.
Follow him on Twitter, guys. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And
Thank you so much for having me.